Primal Chaos.
Hey guys, Primal Chaos here. Welcome to the channel. This one's going to be another one of these reaction videos where I've heard the song before, but one thing I'm learning with this channel is when I do these and I go in and check out a song that I'm familiar with, oftentimes it gets a new lease on life through fresh eyes because, you know, you're used to hearing a song and you've heard it a couple of times or whatever. And I've mentioned before, I'm a fan of the lyrics in this song, but one thing I like to do is filter it through the prism of this reaction channel because you see things and you hear things you never noticed before, because I'm trying to pull every little detail out that I can talk to you guys about that may be interesting for you guys. So a lot of times I'll dive in and I'll be like, wow, I didn't even hear that before. I didn't know that was in there or whatever. Plus, I'm not familiar with the music video for this one either. I wasn't sure it even had one, to be honest. So with all of that, bear that in mind. That, you know, this isn't a true reaction, but I'm fairly passionate about this era of Björk, so it's not like it's going to be me sitting here going, yeah, I've heard this before. I'm excited to get into this one, more so because hopefully for those of you out there who aren't familiar with the song, I'm sharing it with you guys, because to me, this is one of those ones where beautiful poetry, an amazingly esoteric artist, and amazing and intellectual and creative production come together to make what could possibly be one of, in my opinion, the greatest songs ever written, because it just evokes such crazy imagery. Now, is that going to clash? Because when I hear this song, I have a picture in my mind about what it is, and I don't think the video is anything close to that. So this may sort of jolt me out of it a little bit, and maybe I'll start associating the visuals in a different way. But yeah, so I mean, I know the thumbnail will probably say, you know, reaction. This is still a reaction, but just bear in mind, this isn't the first time I've heard Björk, and it's not the first time I've heard this song. So let's just jump in. I mean, to be honest, I just really want to hear this song right now. So it's a perfect example. Here we go. A perfect excuse. There you go.
One day I found a big book buried deep in the ground.
Her voice is ASMR, I swear to God.
But all the pages were blank. Then, to my surprise, it started writing itself. One day, I found a big book buried deep in the...
I guarantee you this happened to her. Oh, how about that? I feel like this isn't that long. You know what? I just want to catch that intro again. Because this...
Then...
just the choice of sounds and the aesthetic of that intro is just absolutely stunning.
To my surprise, it started writing itself. One day, I found a big book buried deep in the ground.
Street. Ah, love this so much. And now the book is being mass produced. It's on every shelf. One of the things that's fascinating about Björk is that she has this childlike sense of wonder that's what makes her who she is. And it's the same. I see it with Aurora as well. Aurora is very similar in that she doesn't seem to be encumbered by the traditional concepts and aesthetics of Western creativity, if that makes sense. So, you know, that's the interesting thing. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the video of Björk where she's talking about a television. She pulls a television apart, an old CRT television, and says things along the lines, I'm paraphrasing, but like, one time a poet told me that television is lying to you. And, you know, she breaks it down and looking at the circuit board, and she's like, it looks like a little city, and you can imagine all of the vehicles driving around. And you know, I mean, not since I was 4 years old did I have those sort of concepts of, you know, the way things could be as opposed to the way that they are. You know, it's this weird surrealist sort of interpretation. You can see that manifested in the choice of director for the music video and obviously the videos in general. This appears to be sort of like a riff on taking, I guess, maybe the purity of her art and her poetry and her sensibilities, and then blasting it onto the world stage, and the maybe the effect that has on somebody like Björk, who's from Iceland, where there's very little to do with anything. It's a quiet little villagey kind of island in the middle of nowhere. You know, I don't know that there would be much in the way of celebrity or in the way of even vast wealth or attention. You know, so this is it's maybe, I mean, I may be interpreting the video wrong, but it seems to be that's her maybe telling a parable of the dangers of what's happened to her since, you know, she started releasing singles, you know, because this is an old song. This isn't too far into her career. But let's just talk about the orchestration. I just want to jump back to the verses. So it starts off with a string run into like a really affected drum groove, which seems like it's just run through a filter. So all you're really hearing is the top end, sort of like the brittle sort of, you know, it almost sounds like it's just hi-hats, but it's not. It's more than that. It's just squished down into just a really sort of high mid frequencies.
I found a bit.
Yeah, see, there's no real bass there, but then you've got your cellos and your higher strings doing sort of fleshing that out, evolving the sound into something more organic. But then you bring in these, I guess it's like timpanis or big percussive tuned percussion drums. Right there, it's like boom, boom, boom. And that just sounds overly dramatic, almost like something you'd put under a Godzilla soundtrack, you know, just to give you that sense of scale. But like just really, it's a real dirge. And then you have this fantastical, beautiful voice over the top. That's, I mean, the lyrics. Give me a second. I'm going to bring them up because I really want to get this right. But I mean, the very first line is, "I'm a fountain of blood in the shape of a girl." And when you think about that visually, it's like, it's so visceral, you know. But yeah, give me one sec. I'm back. Okay, so. I'm a fountain of blood in the shape of a girl. You're the bird on the brim, hypnotized by the whirl. I remember reading somewhere that she composes her lyrics with a friend of hers who's a poet, and I mean, this song, that first verse to me is a benchmark for lyrics writing. It's the kind of thing, every time I'm trying to write some lyrics to something, my first instinct is, if you come up with the most deeply prophetic and outstanding first line, the rest of the song flows. But if you come up with something that's just sort of a placeholder of a first line, it's going to just be a really unimpressive song from beginning to end. It's just how it is. The other thing is, you've got to come up with a really interesting hook for the chorus if that's the standard type arrangement that you're doing. But you know, things like drink me, make me feel real, wet your beak in the stream, game we're playing is life, love's a two-way dream. These are lyricists that English isn't their first language, and it's absolutely stunning. The one that always struck me as really interesting too, as insofar as it just evokes a visual sort of sensation of, you know, of like, you don't need to think about it. You're there. You're involved. Is, I'm a path of cinders burning under your feet. You're the one who walks me. I'm your one-way street. And when you speak it like that in that pentameter, it sounds kind of like a, you know, just a kind of cheesy poem, but in context with the song, I'm a whisper in water, your secret for you to hear. You're the one who grows distant when I beckon you near. You know, I mean, I'm tripping all over it, but it's like, these are just beautiful little passages that just, that draw you in and just make you feel like you're part of that conversation and you're there and you can see it in your mind's eye. It's like a great piece of literature where you feel like you're watching a movie. That's the kind of evocative sensation I get from these lyrics. And in context with the music, it's absolutely surrealist and dreamlike. It's so incredibly beautiful. So I'll jump ahead a little bit. But you can hear those timpanis or tuned low notes. I mean, there's also in there as well, like a, you know, those sort of really low piano notes. In fact, that might be what I'm hearing. I'm not 100% sure. Samples and multiple sort of sounds. Sort of jumping in the ears too, which is interesting. It's kind of fun. Love that set piece. That's genius. Girl in the big city. That's so cool. It's a story that's been told a million times, but through her lens, it's just so original, you know? Yeah, Michael Gondry. I was just looking up to see who made the video. So Michael Gondry, very well known for making surrealist kind of music videos like this. So.
I'm a whisper in water, secrets are you to hear. You're the one who grows
Broadway.
when I beckon you near. Hear me now, return to me.
I love how Michael Gondry often would do things practically rather than resorting to effects. Wow. Trying to figure out what to interpret from this. Is it like long after society's gone, the story lives on and she's now alone or something? I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to try and look up what the allegory is, but It's kooky and it matches Björk's aesthetic, that's for sure. And now she's back to nature. Is that a piano accordion? I wasn't even sure. Wow. Wow. What an amazing song. Now, look, you know, I encourage you, if you're not familiar with that song, to jump back. Jump back and listen to it on a really good stereo with great headphones or whatever, and just close your eyes and just really get involved in getting swept away in the soundscape and the beautiful lyrics and everything like that, because it really is, it's a masterpiece that stands up on its own, whether you're a fan of Björk or not. It's absolutely stunning. And it's one of those ones that I always like to recommend to people who are looking for something a little bit different, who may not be into as unusual an alternative sort of artist as Björk, but it's definitely a good starting place, a good starting point anyway. But yeah, just give me a sec. I'll jump into an ad break and I'll come back and I'll have some more to say about this one. Hey guys, today's video is brought to you in part by Skillshare. Now, anyone who knows me will tell you that I have way too many interests and hobbies. I'm also what's known as an autodidact, which means I'm largely self-taught, but my interests vary wildly amongst an entire gamut of disciplines. Disciplines ranging from things like music production, composition, video production, YouTube content creation, 3D printing, 3D modeling, electronics, woodworking, drawing, painting, graphic design, computers and code. The list just goes on and on. And in order to become proficient in all of these disciplines, it's taken me a lifetime of skills gathered piecemeal here, there, and everywhere. By and large, it just takes so long to develop a skill level in any of those individual things. But it ain't the old days anymore. And today we've got services like Skillshare, a service that provides you with near limitless amounts of information for one small subscription fee. Seriously, all of their curated learning modules and lessons and classes, they're all available at your fingertips. What if you're a graphic designer and then one day you just need to learn something very specific in the world of spreadsheets? Your Skillshare account has you covered. And the courses are all curated, meaning that there's a standard level of competency required for anyone to be teaching a course. And the best part about all this is Skillshare offers free trials. So all you need to do is click the link in the description. It'll take you to their site and you can start learning right now. Or, you know, like wait till after my video. But either way, look, Skillshare. Okay, so I just wanted to jump off real quick and have a look at the other work of Michael Gondry, because as much as I'm enamored by this song, the video clip is actually beautifully stunning as well. So, I mean, he's obviously, people would be familiar with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, maybe to a lesser degree, Be Kind, Rewind. He did a series of television with Jim Carrey recently called Kidding, which I haven't seen, but I hear really good things about. But I mean, his list of music videos goes back, God, till the 80s, really. Let's have a look. A lot of French stuff. Björk, he did the Human Behavior video in 93, which is very similar. Has like that sort of like theater production, arts and craft kind of aesthetic, which fit beautifully with Björk because, you know, she's always got that sort of weird things to make and do kind of world book encyclopedia craft aesthetic going on, which is, if you're old enough to know what that means, you'll get what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's interesting because the video, essentially, I looked into what it's about, and essentially, as the Bachelorette, she finds this book that tells the story of her. The book writes itself. She takes it to a publisher. Her and the publisher fall in love. The book becomes a huge success, and eventually that spawns, you know, everybody reading the book and stuff. It ends up becoming like a stage production, which she's also the star of. And he goes and sees that, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. And then that sort of takes on a life of its own, and it becomes this weird recursive nightmare where suddenly they make a production within the production of the production, and it just keeps on cycling deeper and deeper until eventually the publisher comes to the performance and he sees himself represented on stage in a smaller audience and becomes disgusted by the recursive nature of it all. He breaks off the relationship, at which point the popularity of the book crumbles, and eventually it starts unwriting itself, until eventually it all just reverts back to nature. And just that sort of concept of like recursiveness, it kind of reminds me a little bit of, if you're familiar with Spike Jonze's movie, Being John Malkovich, how it's kind of like looking into a mirror with a mirror, and you get this sort of recursive thing with all these different iterations inside each other. it becomes a real psychedelic experience, I guess, without the hallucination-y sort of stuff, but, you know, getting trapped inside your mind. And in this case, you know, her story becomes trapped inside of itself, and it just keeps on feeding back into itself until eventually it just, you know, atrophies into just chaos again, you know? I mean, it's like an allegory for, what's that universal force of, God, I can't think of it. It's killing me. Like entropy. I'm thinking of entropy, how everything is sort of disseminates towards like chaos eventually, sort of thing. I'm butchering that, but you know, you get the idea. It's like you can only hold on to your story too long before it, you know, starts cannibalizing itself and then becoming like nothing, you know. So that's it's a beautiful allegory, but you know, the production of the song is stunning. I've always been swept away in that sort of tribally sort of rhythm of it all. A lot of Björk stuff in this early period was very EDM sort of club dancey sort of stuff, particularly on the album Post to a degree, but arranged and produced in a way that it didn't sound like it was kind of like in disguise. You know, she always had these cool sort of kooky, esoteric rhythms and sounds and stuff throughout. And then with her kind of kooky little voice on top of it, you know, it was always a recipe for something very, very different. And, you know, collaborating with guys like Michael Gondry, you end up with something completely unique and original, which is, you know, how often do you ever hear something and get excited because it's something you've never heard before? Be honest. I listened to a lot of top 40 stuff today, and I was listening going, why is everyone using the same sample libraries? Why is everybody sort of coming up with the same, you know, they're all ripping off stuff from Justin Bieber, you know, those sort of things with heaps of reverb on them, you know, and stuff like that. And I'm like, there's no originality anymore. Everybody's just trying to copy what someone else did prior that was successful, and that's no way to be. And if there's anything, if it, you know, I could probably count on my hand 5 creative people in my life, you know, as far as like, you know, artists that I respect and stuff like that, who are completely unencumbered by influence and bias, you know, and Björk would be one of them. And, you know, even she had, like, you know, I know she used to, prior to being Björk, she was, as a solo artist, she was in punk bands and stuff like that. So she has a grounding in something, but I don't think much of that carried through into her persona as Björk the artist, right? She's very unique and different. And so that's something that should be celebrated. And I think a lot of us should really seek out artists that are at the forefront of pushing a new narrative as far as creativity goes, you know? And, you know, my hat's off to Björk, and I respect that 100%. I'm definitely not into all of her music or, you know, things that she's involved in. I have my favorites, and that's how I tend to roll with music, although this channel's changing that dramatically. If you guys know of anything from more, you know, after, say, Post, or, you know, like the Björk Greatest Hits album came out. I have, you know, there's a lot of stuff. Is it Medusa or something? Medulla, maybe, is the name of an album. I didn't get into that, and anything beyond that I haven't really heard. So if you know of anything that really I might really shake my tree, let me know, because I'm a big fan of her earlier stuff. So let me know. Again, if you feel like I've brightened your day at all, feel free to support the channel just by buying me a coffee. I'll leave a link in the description, or you can just click the thanks button below the video. That's the way YouTube's devised to help you guys support creators that you appreciate within the app. So that's really helpful. And also like, share, follow, subscribe, and all that sort of stuff. But more than anything, jump in the comments and let me know what's your favorite Björk experience, and or any adjacent artists to Björk, or anyone you think might be one of these true originals that I'm talking about. You know, Aurora, to a degree, is the same thing. She, again, doesn't seem all that encumbered by popular culture or anything like that, or influence. So I'm really interested in sort of diving more into her work as well. But yeah, it's really hard to think of any artists that don't have some sort of influence, or they're not overly drawing from somebody else's success, you know? So anyway, hit me up, let me know. Thanks again for checking out the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.